Good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It is a Talktown special, and Steve's headline this week is on Who Next? Have your say. We have got plenty of comments in so far, so thank you so much for getting them in. We are going to go through them. We might touch on what happened yesterday. We might do that. So let's get things going. Steve, how are you, my friend? You good?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. It's been obviously a bit of a crazy weekend, but yeah, it's I've had a relaxing one too, which has been very nice.
That's what we like to hear. Oliver, how are you?
Very well. I had the 8,000-mile journey to the Falklands, but here now. And as soon as I leave the UK, things go to pot. So there you go.
Well, Oliver reckons things go to pot. Oliver, good to know that you've had a safe journey home and you are joining us from the Falcons. And Cal, you look like you're in a party mood.
By the time, boys, I've got my beer in my hand. Sunny's on. Time to start looking at promotion, boys.
I just want to know, did Oliver take his red card? Because obviously he's become an official now as Oliver. So we need to know if he's got his cards out and if he's giving Lee Grant the red card.
I do have 2 red cards. Yeah, I might dish them out later on, but yeah, I've got that all sorted out.
Keep them in there just in case we need them, Oliver. Okay, so Town yesterday lost 3-1 to Burton, and I don't really think there's any point touching on the game because more important things happened. Lee Grant was sacked from his position as manager of Huddersfield Town Football Club. And Steve, when you saw that come out, what were your initial feelings?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it yesterday, but I think my initial feelings were I was sorry for Lee Grant on a human level because it's never nice to see somebody lose their job, and he does come across as a nice bloke, and I'm sure he will be extremely gutted to not be manager anymore. However, being a Town fan and I want the best for my football club, the club didn't have any choice. If they didn't do it yesterday, it was a signal of we're just going to leave him in charge for the rest of the season, come high or hell water. So for me, Kane, it was a necessary act to give him the chop, unfortunately.
So your initial reactions were it needed to be done. I think that's
it needed to be done, although I was sorry for him on a human level.
Okay. Oliver, when you saw that, obviously landing back in the Falcons, miles away from here, what was your reaction to that news?
Yeah, I mean, as Steve said, I mean, on a human level, pretty disappointing. Always upset for someone that loses the job, but at the end of the day, it's a results business, isn't it? And it just didn't work out for him. And I'm always being the positive one, as people say, but I think time was coming up, especially against Burton. You couldn't. That was an unforgivable, unacceptable defeat. Even he said it himself in his post-match with West Yorkshire, BBC West Yorkshire Sport. And I think he just couldn't get the players motivated. I mean, he said there was a mentality problem in one of his last interviews, and that's his job, that's his responsibility, and he just couldn't get them rolling. And like I say, Kevin Nagel's back for Bradford, so a good opportunity for him to come back and have a look at the things. But yeah, I think it was the right decision.
Okay, so Cal, your party that started yesterday as well, then.
Yeah, and obviously the writing was on the wall as soon as that third goal hit the net in that game that we're not talking about. Because you cannot, as a football team with the ambition and expectations of Huddersfield Town, go to a team that were 21st in the table yesterday in Burton Albion and lose 3-1. It just can't happen. The expectations are higher, and the expectations are higher for a reason. Money's been spent on this squad. It's, as everybody keeps saying, and sort of all of the roundups of Lee Grant's 8 months in charge start with the summer started with an expensively assembled squad. So there's the expectation. You spent money on it and therefore it must be good. Not necessarily. So let's be patient with this next appointment. Let's not appoint a project. But as you say, the writing was on the wall, and I feel sorry for him on a personal level. Not up to task. And I am happy that it's over.
Okay, so look, we've got plenty of comments in, so thank you very much for them. We're going to start going through them a little bit now. I think what we might try and do as well, so I've spoke to the gents over WhatsApp and we mentioned that we aren't necessarily going to talk about names today. We're going to talk about what we think went wrong for Lee Grant and what we would like to see from an upcoming manager. But what I would like from everybody that is viewing and commenting is who would you want to see in charge? And then we might do a bit of a tally and we'll see what people think at the end. So if you are commenting saying this is who you want at the end of this is who you want to come in next, not who we're rumoured with, but who you would like to see come in. So let's start. John says, evening lads, dismal performance yesterday. With the new boss, it's interesting we could get him. I think Nigel Clough has certainly got the credentials at this level. What's your thoughts on that one? John will try and touch on that one. Maybe at the end of the show, we'll see how we get on with where we think Grant went wrong and what we would like to see next. Paul, good evening to you. Thank you for tuning in. Wright was on the wall for Grant after yesterday. He knew himself his position was untenable. I'd like to see Scabala or Mowbray. It's looking like it's manning up the town. Evening Terriers, says Phil. So thank you for joining us as well, Phil. He says no interim being announced just yet. Paul says I do think it will be hogging somewhere. I hope so too. I'll get them fired up for Bradford. Joe said Grant had a go when he became disillusional, saying we had enough chances to win 2 games and dominated throughout. What else we got here? I want to see a manager who'll get them fired up, someone who knows this level, someone like Nigel Clough, says Jacob. Tim from Suffolk, Tim, thanks for joining us. It says something with where we are now, that one thing most of us want is a sacking. The next appointment has to be right. Terry 930, this is talking about Liam Manning. Bristol, Oxford and Norwich fans, so we must be mad to appoint Liam Manning's football style sideways and backwards that will not get bums on seats. Look, there is plenty more and lots I can go through. New comments are coming in every single minute here, so that's absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for them. I will get to some more, but let's talk to Callum. So Cal, where did you think it went wrong for Lee Grant? I mean, try and get specific from it and tell me why you think that area went wrong for him.
I think in terms of the man himself, it may have been too much too soon. I have absolutely no doubt that Lee Grant will be an excellent head coach at any level in 5 years, 10 years. But you need to build the building blocks to be able to do that. And being thrown in at Huddersfield, where expectations were high going into the season, there's lots of money to spend and not necessarily the nous with which to spend it. High staff turnover at the time that he appointed, lots of sort of turbulence in the boardroom, Cartwright and all that sort of mess going on. You've then got a really difficult atmosphere to step into and try and command as your first proper job as the top man. It's a really hard sell. So I think his biggest issue was from the start that he might not have had the experience to be able to dictate the issues that he was going to face further down the line. And I think that's where a lot of fans' frustration came when he did those press conferences that made no sense to anyone other than the top brass at the FA and himself, because that's the way that he's learned these principles. But you've got to be able to articulate them in a different way, and he didn't have the experience to do that. Tactically, it's the same problem, and that's why it leads me on to an individual point that we were under Lee Grant tactically naive, I feel, and as a group of players, you've got to take responsibility for that as well, because they didn't execute what he wanted them to do all of the time. They've got to hold their hands up as a group and say, look, we didn't do everything that we should have done. However, him as a manager has got to be able to be reactive in games to events. You can't set a team up to go, right, we're going to sort of absorb all of the pressure, and then if we go 1-0 down, we're going to keep absorbing the pressure and playing the same way. because that just invites further sort of issues. And it all feeds into each other, the lack of experience. I think that was his biggest issue. I think he needs maybe to go to a club where the expectation isn't quite so high and there's not as much turbulence, and the fans are less vociferous when it comes to their expectations. Start from there, build up his experience, and see where he is then in 5 years' time.
Okay, thank you, Carl. I'm going to go through a couple of more comments, and then we're going to go to Oliver as well. So Paul says, and we must be playing attacking the football. Haven't seen anything but dross so far for too long. Rumours of Leo Manning to be the next man with Chris Hogg as his assistant. And don't get too happy, Callum. If we get Leo Manning, it'll be Lee Grant Mark 2, says Terry 930. Paul was also with Callum about talking about promotion for the first time. He said it in a while. Ross is happy that he's gone. What else we got in here? Captain Cisco, manager merry go around at Town, just haven't got the right manager since Nagel took over the club. Definitely could comment on that one. We'll see about if we get time at the end of it. He was a nice bloke, just wasn't the job for him. Wrong club when demanding positive results. Mark also says the difference in a new manager recruitment this time is a new face heading up with Chris Markham. A big opportunity for him to come to the fort. Skabula is going nowhere. You can all calm down. Christopher, he is a Lincoln fan, so he's going to say that. A couple of comments in for who we would like to see, so thank you very much for them from Rivethead, Tom Fordy as well. We will come back onto them towards the back end of the show, so thank you very much. Manning's had some success at both League One and Championship level. Seems like he'll be the man according to the reports. Not a Town fan is Ian, but as Steve said, he seems a bit robotic and emotionless, like an FA textbook. What else have we got in here? We've got quite a few more, and then we're going to come to you, Oliver. Chris says Grant wasn't personable, lacked any personality or charisma to endear himself to the fans. Michael, good evening to you, my friend. We are all well. Hope you are as well. Paul, back to you. I think he was stubborn with his tactics, would change them, or maybe that's saying wouldn't change them. Plus, he never took any accountability. He did yesterday, mind, when he knew it was done. Nana Paul, his substitutes were often too late and he was taking off players who were performing at the best of the time. I think the main thing I picked up on. Fordy, what does he say? I feel like Lee Grant was too laid back, or at least when it comes across that way. When he spoke with a tone, he never felt he had any passion to me in anything, the same way he said after every game. Okay, and the last one before I come to you, Oliver, he was appointed as head coach rather than manager. If I can get my words out, with a more experienced coach at his side, would have been less pressure on him. So thank you very much for the comments. They're absolutely superb. I think I did okay to get through them. So Oliver, where do you think it went wrong, Mr. Lee Grant?
I mean, there's a lot to dissect there, isn't there? And well done for going through all the comments. It's great to see so many people commenting with their opinions. I mean, there's a lot to start off with. Start of the season. Is new in the game himself. As Carl mentioned, there's been some director of football issues as well. We've just got a brand new one that's now stable. Chris Markham is now in post. Again. Phil makes a very good point. Phil Jean 7843. The fact that number 2, I mean, is Paul McShane still number 2? I don't know. I mean, was he suitable to assist Lee Grant, who knows his backroom staff, to keep that motivation going in the team? Because he did say it was a mentality issue, and I do have to say, I mean, it has improved since. It has improved a little bit since the end of last season. From when it was Hogg's last game against Leyton Orient now to where we are now, but it's not improved strong enough, has it really? Because people say that we're in the playoffs still and blah, 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 but Huddersfield, should be up there even further and carrying on. So that's probably why he lost his position. But I totally agree with Carl. When I was down there watching the games, first half, we seemed to play really, really well, or in some of the games that I've seen. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it was. I'm just a guy that speaks on here. But for some reason, it switched. It switched in the second half to sort of consolidate a point or consolidate, and the late goals happened, particularly with Exeter. That was disappointing. We were 2-1 up, and even, I know we beat Rotherham 3-0, but even in the second half there, we seemed to switch, and Rotherham were allowed to play a little bit towards the end. But you know what I mean? It was just these, as you say, maybe these tactical decisions just didn't work out for Lee Grant, and frustrations were building. And as Stephen said as well in last night about his interviews didn't seem not genuine, but it just didn't seem personable to try and get the fans on his side and things like that. So when you have, why did this happen? Why did the results happen? And you say he's made so many chances and so many shots, it just doesn't really resonate. And then you go, is this, does the manager know what he's doing? But like I say, I'm sure he'll have potential in the future, maybe another number 2, maybe go into coaching and build his way up that way. But I'm sure he'll have another shot in the future. But there's so many things to dissect, and like I say, he seemed to have fallen out with a few players as well along the way. But yeah, there was a few. You can't just pinpoint it on one. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, no, there's quite a bit, Oliver. But I think one of the things that were coming for you was mentality.
Yeah,
you seem to think that mentality was possibly one of the bigger issues. But why? What kind of thing are you seeing? Is that from the players as well, or is that from...
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, at the end of the last season, Huddersfield, I've never seen a worse game at that Leyton Orient game. And I know I keep banging on about it, but that 4-1 defeat at the end, Huddersfield just were devoid of anything, shots, confidence, X, Y, and Z. And he had to build that mentality back up for people to go and have a go and have a chance and build that back up to where Huddersfield should be. And in his post-match interview with West Yorkshire Sport, BBC West Yorkshire Sport, he did say, we have the talent essentially, but you just don't have the mentality to, and he doesn't, really know what it is to build his way back up again. And that was his job, to keep them motivated and to keep that dressing room positive and moving forward. And it just didn't work out, did it?
All right. Steve, by the way, Mr. Mac 83, I think you've made a great show. We'll come to that comment at some point. Steve, where do you think it has gone wrong for Lee Grant?
I think, as Oliver said, there's lots of different things that have made this appointment the wrong one in the end. I was very positive at the beginning. I think the majority were. It was a very left field appointment, but we kind of thought, well, there must be something to it. His inexperience on the touchline, which is going to be obvious, but when you're coming up against somebody like Gary Bowyer at Burton or Nigel Clough at Mansfield, etc., these managers have been around the block. They know when a game's going in a certain direction, or they know how to, put a substitution on or make a tactical change. And Lee Grant just didn't know how to do that. You can go through various games this season where, whether it's Bradford away and we're suddenly losing his way and we're 3-0 down at half time, or Blackpool where we have a crazy 10 minutes, or even more recently when you look at the Lincoln game and he only makes one substitution in the second half, because I just don't think he knows what to do. He doesn't tactically look at a game and think, I need to do this, this and this to get this outcome that I want to get. And that was so frustrating. Or when we go to Stockport and we don't even put a glove on them, and it's not, we're not playing Barcelona, we're playing Stockport. We're in the same league, we've got a very good squad on paper, and they're just not being utilised in the right way. And one of the things that's really frustrated me is that we've bought 14 new players in the summer. We've obviously added to that now in January. We've given him the tools to be able to be successful this season. And for whatever reason, and I think Oliver's probably correct in another sense where mentality comes down to it, he's not being able to change that culture. And that mystifies me to say that the majority of this squad has been changed. But I also agree with Cal. I think not just tactically or what he's doing on the pitch. I think he hasn't resonated with Town fans. And for me, I think that's a massive point when, we want a manager to look and speak like what we want them to, whether that's on the pitch or doing things off the pitch or whatever. And he's never been able to do that. And I think that's again a bit of an inexperience where, you know, we're just dying for a bit of honesty after games. If we've played crap, my favourite word, we've played crap. Tell us that then. Tell us why we've played crap. But all we got was, well, it's the group's fault and it's the group's issue. But that doesn't help anybody. And I just felt probably that waned with the players in the end, and they probably thought, oh yeah, we know it's our fault and we're trying to do something about it, but your tactics or whatever you're asking us to do isn't helping. And that, I think, is where he went wrong in the end. And as Carl rightly said, the third goal against Burton, that goes in. It's good night, Vienna. And, you know, in his interview afterwards, you could tell in his face and in his voice, he was gone. He knew.
So, Steve, basically, you're saying some of that, the substitutes that he made, they weren't quite good enough, and that could have been one of the issues. So, I think for me, it was very much. I think formations were wrong. I don't think there were very much fluidity in structure to the first kind of formation that he was playing. I think as Town attacked, it left the right-hand side very open. I understand that is where the right fullback would have to go. But when Town were losing the ball because the defenders were so deep, the right midfielder was coming through the middle into the middle of the park to be the number 10. It just left a massive, massive gap, and the fullback to defend two players on his own. I think when he started, obviously, with May and Taylor, the two players who like to come in for the ball as well. So that not only did you have your right winger coming as the number 10, you had your two number 9s coming in to feed the ball. So you had no outlet over the top through the centre. You had no outlet on your right because he was through there. And then the left midfielder was just there too. And then it confused me going to the back five, especially where at Northampton, although at the time it was probably one of them games where he couldn't lose. But going defensively away from home against a side lower down in the table, it was a bit of a worry with the players that Town have. And I do think for me was formation-wise and structure and lack of balance. And I've seen a comment as well, playing players out of position. You know, Ruben Ruskin is a left-back, but we're playing as the winger. Leo Castledine is a number 10/central midfielder playing as a left wing, and don't get me wrong, scored some great goals, but sometimes when you're putting round pegs in square holes or square pegs in round holes, it doesn't always work. And I think that was probably a bit of a downfall as well. Look, let's have some more comments, and then we've got some interesting questions to go through between ourselves, and maybe anything as well to pop up in what's happening in the comments as well. So let's get back to where I was, if I can try and find it. Paul says, someone like Mowbray, I think we spoke about this one. Paul, we'll come back to this one at the end. And Mr. Mike, this is a great comment. You're absolutely right. We're going to add that to our vote as well a little bit.
No.
Wow, come on, Steve. Didn't even play the players in the natural positions yet. Captain Cisco, I did actually see that as I were coming through. Tom says Lee Manning plays with 3-4-2-1. Would that suit Huddersfield Town? Not too sure on that one. You're not going to win games when you bring Dion Charles on when he was like a headless chicken. No plan B, says Phil. Paul in there again. He was tactically naive. Changed for a couple of games, but then reverted back. This is a good run day. I'm going to come back to yours, actually, mate. I'm just literally going straight through what we've got here. Look at the game against Stockport. Played 69 minutes in our own half. He made us look so predictable to other teams. Jed, where did he go wrong? New age, data-driven, analytic crap. Steve, your favourite word there. In the end, the players didn't perform due to information overload. I think Jed makes a pretty good point there. He wasn't a Yorkshireman, so he's always going to struggle. Grant massively underachieved with the resources at his disposal. As Stephen said, he didn't resonate with the fans, and I'm sure he doesn't have the respect to the players. He had to go. Remy Burton, a pub side, looked like Brazil, as all the girls were Class, right? Okay, thank you very much, Rivethead, for that.
Bit harsh on Burton there. I didn't think they were that bad. To be fair, they weren't as bad as Port Vale, who actually were a pub scene under Darren Moore. I just wondered whether I could bring my graphic up again because I know that you really like showing graphics on screen.
I certainly do. Yeah. Steve, which one would you like up, my friend?
Well, we'll show the stats one first for League Run, if you can.
Is it that one?
Yeah, that one. This is it.
Right.
So I've made this image courtesy of AI.
What about to say? AI. Let's take it back down, right? Let's take it back down.
The information.
Steve inputted some very small information into an online browser to make an AI.
Very smart.
Steve, I will give you this in all fairness. You did put that information in there and find the browser. Anyway, back up.
Right, okay. Thanks for that. I'll take that as a sort of compliment. So obviously these it's quite an interesting, statistical sort of information here. I mean, we sit between 10th and 14th in a lot of the places regarding the sort of stats, which sort of maybe tells you where and why we're in the position that we're in. I mean, accurate long balls is a good one there. 20.9%. We're sat 22nd in the league, and accurate, crosses, which is one that Kane mentions regularly about whipping crosses into the box. We're only sat 10th in the league for that stat. Pass accuracy as well. Averagely per game, we've had 303 passes over the season if you average it out, and that's we're only sat 9th in the table. So I think what kind of shows with this, Kane, you can take the graphic off now if you want, mate. It's fine. I think what the kind of graphic shows is that we score a lot of goals, but the defensive to midfield point of passing information overload. I know.
But good one, Jed.
But we like stats, Jed. We like stats. Anyway, I think what those stats do show is that from the defence to the midfield, it wasn't working, and yet the goals that we have scored were first in the league for scoring and creators sort of chances created. So I think that tells you a lot. If you want to go to the second image, Kane.
Here we go.
Yeah, so this one, so again, AI has tactically has done a tactical
Look at the Echo Stadium there. It looks great.
I know it's
I'll just ask what's happening in that football game, considering one of the nets is on the halfway line.
It's brilliant, isn't it? So anyway,
Yeah.
Obviously it's taken some of the information out. It showed that we're susceptible to the counter attack, which I think is pretty true from what we looked at in the Burton game yesterday. We sort of went forward, but then were unable to stop any of the counter attacks. And poor defensive organisation is true as well. At times we set pieces and such. Lack of effective pressing. I think we've all mentioned this in recent weeks. When one person presses, whether it's Dion Charles or Bojan Radulovic, there isn't a man sort of backing him up, and I think that comes a lot into what Kane says about formations as well. Obviously that stat that I said about 22nd in the league for long balls, long balls to nowhere. Whenever we do play a long ball, it doesn't necessarily stick up top. It's all right, Kane, you can take it down now. But yeah, I think the stats just prove why Lee Grant deserved to lose his job. I don't know what any of you lads think about those statistics and what AI's managed to pull out.
I think you've just given us a lot of information there to try and digest.
Well, people can pause it when they want, once it's finished.
When they watch back, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, watch back, come back.
Yeah, watch back and then pause it.
What are the rewatch numbers like on this podcast, just out of interest?
Say that again, sorry?
What are the rewatch numbers like on this podcast? Do we
know? We'll find out because we're going to have about 100 and odd.
Have to be pretty good.
That just to look.
Give us some credit, boys.
Wait,
no, it's a good graphic. It's a good graphic.
We said you typed it in like a pro.
Look, Steve, you've taken time out of your day to do that for 30 seconds.
I have.
And that's what it's done. It's fantastic.
Very important.
we're really impressed with you, Steve. We just love to wind you up because it's so funny. Right, okay. So I think we've got a bit of a question now, and then one that I'm going to bring up that Dale's put. Let's try and keep it brief. But that might be quite hard. So I'm going to go. No, yeah, so I'm going to come to you last, Steve. Oliver.
Wow. Wow, you just knife me all the time on here.
It's so funny.
You like it now for a change.
Well, you see how much happier we all are now that Lee Grant's no longer the manager of Huddersfield Town. That's a lasting legacy.
We'll be depressed again next Sunday, trust me.
I won't even get
Oliver.
Hello.
The timing of this, well, the timing of Lee Grant being sacked is mid-January.
Yeah.
He's brought 3 players in. He's let a couple go, one out on loan. What did you make of the timing of it?
I mean, I've posted on my own Twitter as well. I found it quite bizarre, the timing, but as Steve and Cal said, I guess they had no option after the Burton result. But at the end of the day, the announcement or the statement was quite bizarre, because usually they would say, oh, and the second backroom staff, the assistant coach, whatever's also left, and whoever's. But I mean, we don't even know who's going to be taking over for Bradford next week, which will be an interesting fixture against rivals and promotional rivals and everyone. So it just seemed a bit kind of sudden. Maybe it was just a sort of phone call. That's it, Grant's away, and then we'll sort the rest out this coming week. Sorry. But yeah, you're right. January, we had Humphrey. We had a few. We've done quite well in the transfer window. I've seen something about Ipswich not happy with Grant going. So, but again, that must have been a Grant signing earlier on in the transfer window. So I don't know. It just seems a bit impromptu. But as we said before, maybe they had no choice. And Kevin Nagel is coming back. Is it tomorrow or this next week or whatever? So maybe that's why they've timed it for his arrival, coming back to Huddersfield to sort stuff out. So, but yeah, it's an interesting one. But I did find it quite very, very sudden. And the statement, obviously, it was nice. It was in terms of we'd like to thank Lee Grant for his efforts and things, but there was no mention of is it Paul McShane? Yeah, Paul McShane. No mention of him or anyone else leaving. Just Lee Grant himself.
Yeah, Cal, what did you make of the timing of this?
I know we've said that as soon as the ball hit the net for Burton's third, that was writing on the wall, but it somehow seems reactive. And it's a strange thing to say given the situation we find ourselves in. But allowing him to sign Mumba, getting Humphreys in on loan from Ipswich, that I understand from what I've heard was essentially a favour from Ipswich to a friend of the club in Lee Grant. You know, he was their attacking coach. They want to see him do well, so they've allowed him to loan Humphreys, maybe for favourable terms. And then we've sacked him. Now, what that means for that loan, I don't know. But we also sent Joe Taylor out to Wigan, I'm assuming a decision of Lee Grant's. And now we're in a position where these players, this is done now, and he's gone. Well, one thing I found really interesting, and I don't know whether this is something that we've picked up on up to this point, is that there's clearly somebody at the club that's releasing sensitive information way before we are supposed to be seeing it, because everybody found out that Lee Grant had been sacked by Huddersfield Town about 3 hours before the club put anything on social media. Now that is strange. That indicates to me that there's somebody at the club that's backhanding information. So all this talk about a shifting culture and a changing culture, that must just be at surface level, because just beneath there are things still going on that shouldn't be going on. And is that indicative maybe of further problems at the club and maybe the reason why Grant didn't get on quite as well as what his early promise showed?
I think in football, everybody knows everything. Everybody just knows everything. You know, that everyone's involved in stuff, aren't they?
They are. And I would appreciate if it came from more than one source, I would absolutely agree with you. But this came from one man on Twitter.
Gary Nigel.
No, one journalist on Twitter.
He was an EFL journalist, P.T. O'Rourke or someone, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a well-trusted.
If things are being briefed to journalists, I mean, we know the score. If things are being briefed to journalists, it's not normally just to one journalist, because otherwise, what's the point? So somebody has a friend in this journalist and is feeding information out of the club. Now, we don't know what stories haven't made it. There could be other information that's gone out, and who knows. But I think for me, that was another sort of final episode in this sort of shambolic era that we've had, where we've had all sorts of issues on and off the field, and that culminated.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can go on about everything else, but I think the main point is, and Steve, would you agree that Lee Grant, everybody wanted Lee Grant to go? Lee Grant wanted him to go, and yes, Cal, it was a little bit reactive, and okay, it's gone out, but for me, I do feel as if journalists they know more things.
Let's not get anything twisted. I was the first in the queue cheerleading that man's departure.
Yeah,
let's not get that twisted. But we've somehow made the inevitable seem reactive. We seem to be caught on the hoof by our own decisions, by not putting things in the statement about who will be leading the team against Bradford, by not announcing the fate of Paul McShane. What is that man doing now?
But so just to touch on that, I think the timing for me was, it had to be done. Like I've said before, the club had no choice. They had to sack him. Losing 3-1 to Burton when you're supposed to be going for promotion, with what's recently gone on in terms of results and performances, they had no choice. Now, it come a little bit late. I think the first sign was the fact that the club didn't put his post-match comments out, which they normally do pretty quickly, to be honest. So that was I think the first sign. I think he's contractually obliged to do with BBC, so that was the reason he spoke to them. The statement was very short, I thought. It said over usual, like Oliver said, thanks and whatever, which they normally do, unless they've had a bust up. But it didn't mention whether his staff was going, didn't mention who was taking the game for this weekend against Bradford. And I just don't know whether that's because they haven't yet decided whether they're talking to a new manager to come in this week and he'll be in from Tuesday. They might have already been talking to somebody. We just don't know. Or more likely what I think has happened is they've just said after the game, right, we're sacking him, put a statement out, and then we'll deal with talking to Johnny Worthington and Johnny Ogg on Monday morning, and we'll release that they're going to be taking the game v Bradford. I think that's probably more what's happened, to be honest, knowing how things have run in the past. Let's say, it's all a bit up in the air, isn't it? Because you don't really know what's happening. But I don't think. Ken, the big point is they didn't have a choice; they had to do it, and it was better that they did it on the game day than doing it today. But I do also agree with Cal. They probably wanted to do it this morning, but because of all the leaks, they had to put the statement out last night.
One thing to think about as well, gents, was it a little bit too late when the fans were booing him at home? Was that not a big sign about how this might continue? Oliver, you look like you might disagree with that.
Yeah, this is where I put my 20p in, really, because it's all hindsight, isn't it? Really, I mean, I really, really wanted him to do well, and Huddersfield, I don't know how many it is. Is it 12 managers in 10 years? I mean, no, it needs some stability, surely. At the end of the day, I'm not. Burton was an unacceptable result there, and that's it. It had to go, but too late. It's always kind of a long sword, isn't it? Because in January, he's starting to, he's finding people, he's transferring people in, is making his final preparations for his team ahead of this playoff campaign or whatever, the promotional campaign. I don't know. It's difficult. I really don't like getting rid of managers. I don't think that is the right way. I mean, Lee Grant did have a lot of challenges in terms of injuries and things like that he had. But as we've spoke about earlier, he wasn't adaptable to his positioning or his tactics. He kept the same tactic, and people could read him like a book towards the end. Whereas watching other teams in League One, they change their formation every 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Whereas Huddersfield, Lee Grant was keeping one formation throughout the entire game. So that's the kind of levels that we're talking about here. But I don't know. It's hindsight, isn't it? It could be another Lee Clark, Simon Grayson kind of season where we got rid of Lee Clark and then Simon Grayson pulled us up. But, I don't know. It is hindsight. I don't think we can say, I don't know. We're not in the relegation zone. We're not 14th. We're not 15th, whatever. We're still in the playoffs. We've still got a shout, although there is game of hands. But I do think it was the right time. I don't know whether it was too late. I always like to give people a chance. So, but again, I'm not in the boardroom. I'm not in charge of that. So
no, you're just too nice, Oliver. But you're not in the boardroom, but still want your opinion. Just tell us what it is. But either way,
we're in the playoffs, and I've had people say this before. Like, we are still up there. Of course, we're not leading the way of the league or whatever, but we are still in there. We've still got 20-odd games to go to play, and we've still got chances to get in there. It'd be interesting to see who's next,
Well, I will say just very, very, very quickly on the Lee Clark, Simon Grayson point. Simon Grayson was appointed in mid-February.
Okay.
We didn't sack not Lee Grant. We did sack Lee Grant. We sacked him yesterday. We didn't sack Lee Clark until, the 20th of February.
So okay, well, but Lee Clark was still in there. Sorry.
If it can be done in that time, we've left ourselves more time to get it right now.
Yeah, but can I just come in here, right? The one thing that I would say is that I know we're going back over history, but that side, right? I still think that Lee Clark side beats this Lee Grant side just because of art, not because of technical ability. And what really does me in about this situation is that these players we know are good enough. Like, the players that we have at the club now are technically a lot better than what that side was back in 2010, 2011. They're just far better in terms of technical ability. So the difference in gap of where we should be and how we're performing is a lot greater than what it should be, than what it was back then. So, yes, somebody could come in like a Simon Grayson, but that just, to me, that means if you got another Simon Grayson in now, which I don't think we will, because there isn't that type of character around and like at the moment to get a team definitely up, unless you go for somebody like I said before, Tony Mowbray or a Gary Rowett. But it's the underperformance under Lee Grant that really hurts, I think, because we all sit here and we know that these players can perform a lot better. And you know what? That goal, I know we're not really going over the game tactically, but I bet from a tactical point of view, Kane, you'll have been really happy with the goal that we scored at Burton. From a tactical point of view, the way that the ball flowed and the fact that Bojan, your number one player, was involved in what he did, that goal was superb. The quality of that goal on Saturday was superb. It's just the rest of the game was absolutely shocking.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. Look, let's try and move on. Nana Paul says, I'm happy with the timing, really. I'm always for giving managers a chance. Exeter raised eyebrows, but can be forgiven. Stockport was tough, made Burton his last chance, really. So a few people seem to have been quite happy with the timing of this one, and they have given him a bit of a chance. Right, okay, Steve, you just mentioned a couple of names out there. Viewers, get your comments in for who you would like to see take charge of Huddersfield Town. We've already got some. We're going to go back through them. Gents, we're not going to go through who, but we're going to talk about what. So when I'm talking about what, I'm talking about what you want to see out there. I'm talking about systems. I'm talking about principles, identity, because that's what I feel has been lacking. We were supposed to get Northern football, and we got soft Southern football, didn't we?
We didn't get any football.
That's what we're coming through. No, but look, all I'm saying is that was the kind of identity that was coming through, but we didn't necessarily get it. I spoke about formation earlier. Steve, you talk about across as we talk about subs, we talk about mentality. So, Oliver, going forward, what would you like to see, and what would you want to see?
I mean, I think we steady it and get someone in before as sort of an interim, similar to what United are doing.
Oliver, forget about that. What do
Right.
you want to see happen on the pitch?
Well, let's win games. Let's get up there.
So how do you do that?
So I would, to be honest, I would look for a sort of, at the moment, a traditional sort of a Neil Warnock style manager for now. You know, you've got these modern managers who are data driven and stats and figures and everywhere. But I think for now we need a Neil Warnock, a similar style, traditional kind of experienced manager in this division, in this league. And then towards the end of the season, have a review of that, see if it fits the culture, because that is Huddersfield all over it. You look at our past managers since Nagel took over. I think Neil Warnock and Duffer were the only two real ones that I would say that have done quite well with us. But yeah, a traditional manager, experience in this league. But yeah, I would go for that for now to try and pick us back up and get that group of players motivated and the mentality changed as well.
So you want some kind of experience in there, a motivator. What do you want to see on the field?
Well, we're kind of hard, you know, in the sort of an adaptability of a formation, somewhere where we can go out to these games. Even when we're leading, when Grant was there, we would seem to sit back. You know, we're going out and playing and going out to create these chances. And if we concede, we carry on and keep fighting. And if we're leading 3-0 at half time, we carry on. We don't just sit back and try and grind the results out. That's what we're looking at. I mean, I would prefer an 8-7 victory. I said this before, over a 1-0 victory by far. As long as we're still going out, still with the heart on our sleeves, still fighting for these results. And for some odd reason, I mentioned it with Exeter. We were all over them in the first half. And then in the second, and it's happened so many times, but I'm just bringing that as a result. And then we sat back and tried to grind that result out, and that's just not the Huddersfield way.
And formation wise, what would you play?
I couldn't tell you, Kate. I mean, it's got to be so adaptable, hasn't it? Really, but we've been scoring the goals, but again, we need. I couldn't tell you a specific formation itself.
Steve, obviously, same questions. I'll probably have to remind you what some of those questions were, but what is it you want to see from Huddersfield Town now going forward?
I want to see an experienced manager. I don't want to see an FA course manager. I don't want to see an up and coming manager. I don't want to see an inexperienced manager. I want to see an experienced manager that is a leader, that knows how to walk into a dressing room that demands respect, that the players are going to listen to and want to play for, that is a good man manager. That's what I want. I don't want a manager that can't, get the best out of players. I'm sick of that. I want a manager that can do that. And a manager that speaks to the fans and wants to have a relationship with the supporters, and not one that just talks to us like we're customers in a shop. I want, a bit of passion on the touchline. I want, when we win a game, I don't just want a manager to come up and go, ta. I want a manager to come up actually to the away end, a packed away end that Town fans normally pack out, or up to the Cowshed Loyal, or wherever in the home ground at the Aku, and actually show a bit of passion and punch the air and live and breathe the football club. That's what I want, Kane. Whether we'll get that, I don't know.
So you want in passion, you want in experience. It sounds like what you want in your life as well, Steve, doesn't it?
But also tactical now. So I want them to be able to play a formation of and actually be able to manage within it. So I've always liked the. Sorry, go on. You want to come in?
Thank you. So you've done about tactical nous and a formation. What is the formation, and how do you mean by tactical nous?
So the formation I like the most is 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. I think those formations are the most fluid that you can actually work within. I want to see an ability in games to make substitutions that make a difference to a game. That, you know, so if the game's flowing in one direction, you can change it, whether it's in a good way or, you know, if the game's going well or whether it's going badly, you know how to change it. You don't stutter on the touchline and then do nothing. So I think we've got the players to be able to play the 4-2-3-1 or 4-1. 4-1-4-1 system, to be honest. I really don't want us to sit deep. I'm fed up of sitting on his own box with two central defensive midfielders that just never move off the centre-back's toes. It's just boring. Go and attack teams. We're not playing Real Madrid, we're playing bloody Burton and Exeter.
Yeah. And they've shown how dangerous they can be, though, as well, haven't they, Steve?
Well, against crap tactics in a formation that don't work, yeah. But if you put a manager in that knows what he's doing and has a bit of nous, you should be able to. We should have the players in this squad with the ability that they've got to be able to beat these teams and challenge the top teams, and not go to Stockport and think, oh, bloody hell, we better get 11 men behind the ball because we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose to Stockport. They're far superior to us. Have some balls for a change. Go after teams. Boring not doing it.
I think we need to clip that. We've had some fantastic comments in, so thank you very much for them coming in. We are going to go through them in just a moment soon. Cal, over to you, bud. What do you want to see from Town next?
We can't afford another project. We just can't. We need somebody in the door that Steve used a good phrase that's going to command respect. I think that's important. Somebody that's been there and done it before, and has almost like a blueprint for success at this level. You know, that's Nigel Clough. I know we're not mentioning names, but that's a shout that it's adaptable. The one for me is that tactical, almost fluidity, being able to change your tactics based on what's in front of you, not only for different teams and different fixtures, but in those games, being able to say, right, we've been playing a 4-4-2, but it's not working. We need to switch. We need more width. We're going to switch to a 4-3-3 in the second half. We're going to change the approach completely because these players are good enough to do it, because they've done it before. And we've seen these lovely little package clips that we get when we sign a new player, and they're fabulous and they're brilliant and they're banging goals, and then Alfie May's like winding everybody up, taking a fiver off a Town fan and like having a right laugh, brilliant. Then they come to Huddersfield Town and they just sort of fizzle out, and we don't see any of this like good stuff, or we haven't of late. So I think it's a good time now. We're at a good point in the season where we can use the phrase, let's remove the shackles of the rigid system and the tight tactics, and we don't talk about anything that's going on with the group, and the way that we play is very set and rigid, and we stick to that no matter what's in front of us and no matter what's happening in the games. Let's take the shackles off. Let's be reactive, because these players have got it in them, and we need a manager, not a head coach, a manager that knows how to get it out of them. Interesting that you mentioned about a manager, not a head coach. I might come back on touch on that one.
So you spoke about adaptability, that formation. Is there a chosen formation that you would prefer?
I think, given the players that we've got and the players that we've signed, a formation that utilises wing play would be my preferred option. So a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3.
Okay, and then just to go back, you want, and this might be just a quick question to Oliver and Steve as well. So you want a manager, not a head coach. Why?
I feel like a manager commands more respect in terms of delegating his jobs to the staff that he knows should be able to get his message across in the right way.
Wasn't Carlos Corberan and David Wagner head coaches, not managers?
Yeah, that's true. And there are many cases throughout football where you could say that is a successful model. But what Carlos Corberán had and what David Wagner had compared to what whoever walks into this football club is coming up against is they were not only able to rebuild and reshape the squad, but they were also able to rebuild and reshape the sort of mantra and the feeling around it. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're coming in with these new ideas. But I think whoever comes in now has got a real job on, first of all, before we start implementing any new ideas, of just steadying the ship and sort of trying to understand what is our best shape, what is the best position to play each player, how do we get the most out of these players before we even think about tinkering with a system or ways of working. How let's just get back to basics. And for that, I think you need a manager.
So potentially what you're saying is for right now is a manager to come in, control that, but potentially in the summer it might go back to the revert with the director, the sporting director, then the head coach.
And I'm not entirely against the idea of an interim coming in for that period of time. Who that would be, I'm not sure. However, if we could get somebody that would be able to steady the ship and then take us on that sort of transformative journey that Wagner did. He turned canteen into a gym and all that sort of thing. And then the Corberán came in and made the pitch wider and all sorts of stuff. Fit what's around you to aid what you're doing. Okay. What we need to do that. But that can't be a mid-season job, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay. No, Oliver, you similar head coach or manager?
I would say head coach for now.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of it. We got that Chris. We got new director of football now, and he can sort out all them issues. I know Lee Grant had. We had a few issues with director of football in the past. But yeah, I would go with head coach as a sort of an interim. What Michael Carrick's doing at United. I know totally different clubs. Someone exactly to steady that ship before you get to the new season, and then figure out where you go from there. So yeah, that I would definitely go with the head coach, because a manager has to do too much. If a head coach, he can just focus on getting Huddersfield out of that league and promoted into the Championship, and then review at the end.
So two different answers there. So thank you very much for that. So Steve, if we were doing a vote, it would go down to you. Would you prefer a head coach or a manager to come in now?
A manager.
Okay.
I don't.
No further comment. Manager.
Game over.
I just don't see what.
Everybody. Well, she'll see you next week.
I just don't see the point in getting an interim head coach to then go back to. No, we're wasting half a season. What's the point? We're already sat in 6th. You get a manager in, a proper manager that's experienced, that, all right, might take 2 games, 3 games to figure stuff out. That's fine. But, we ain't got time to be peeing about, head coach, then just get a manager in that can sort it out.
Well, the reason why I'm saying, sorry.
No, go on, Oliver.
The reason why I'm saying not having a manager is because he would want to implement, their philosophy, their for the long term. You know what I mean? If we're going the interim route, then definitely you'd want a head coach to take this team forward, not change it all up for his philosophy.
I don't want an interim. I want Chris Markham to go. Right,
fair enough.
I'm picking a style of play. This is what I think Huddersfield Town should look like. I've agreed with Kane in the past about this, I think, about how important a director of football should be. So all the manager has to come in and do is go, right, these are the sets of players that I've got. This is already my idea of how I like to play football. It marries up with quite how, through the conversations that I've spoke to Chris Markham and the way he sees it. He's not. If Chris Markham thinks that football should be played in a 4-2-3-1 system or 4-3-3, he ain't going to employ a manager that plays a 5-2-3-1 system, is he? He's not going to do that. So, personally, I I just want a manager that can come in, sort these players out, get them playing, put proper players in proper positions, not inverted blooming wing backs that we saw 2 weeks ago that was absolutely pointless. You know, it didn't offer anything tactically to the side at all. That's why I want Kane, to be honest. I don't want an interim waste of half a season. By the time we get to next summer, season ticket prices will be hiked up again.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yes, I think sometimes it can be a bit of a confusion in there, can't there, between what a manager does and what a head coach does and what the sporting director does, and it can be quite confusing. Look, we don't really have time to go through it because we are past the hour mark, and we need to find out what our listeners and our viewers believe, or who they believe could be the next manager of Huddersfield Town. Let's see if we can get through some other comments as well. Before we do that, we'll do a quick roundup with everybody to see what everybody thinks. So I'm just having a look here. Jed, I've seen a couple of yours, mate. I'm going to be honest, we're going to skip through some of them apart from the next one after speak from Nana Paul. So I'm going to find the right formation, tactics players, or we can get choosing formation and forcing players into these positions. Their struggle doesn't work. We've seen Grant was too nice people don't win. Paul mentioned something about what you said, Steve. Not had that since King Wagner, Steve, but exactly what we want. So whatever you mentioned a little bit earlier. Chris, I've seen your comment about what Michael said. We might bring that one up in just a moment as well. John was saying it was never want to hear the group or the learnings from the next manager ever. Big Kevin in the building this week. Would love to be a fly on the wall. We've just got this one here. Just taking Town to the Prem on ultimate difficulty on FIFA. If that puts me in for a shout, I'm pretty sure it might do. But Nana Paul's in there as well because he's for an accolades, and he had Carlisle United to Europa League on FIFA 14. Look, we all know it. We all believe we're going to be the best manager in the world.
FIFA 14 was that?
Yeah, FIFA 14. So we need a head coach, someone who coaches the players on the pitch and get them at their fittest so they can perform for 90 minutes and improve them. Agree on the formation, says Luke, with a wing player, but have no natural wings at club except Ashia. But he's too inexperienced, so in general we need to dip into the transfer loan market. Right, okay. So I think it's time to do a bit of a poll. And then I'm going to ask each of you for one name, please. But first of all, let's see what our viewers have been saying. Okay, so I think, John, we're going to go with yours first. So that's Nigel Clough we've got in there. Who else have we got in here? Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Liam Manning, but whether that, if he's coming in, I don't think it will be a first choice. So, Riverhead, Neil Warnock, 20 years younger. Tom says Gary Rowett, 40. Tony Mowbray would come in for him. Who else have we got in here? I think there's a few more just a little bit further down. Tom was telling us how Liam Manning plays. What else we got in here? Downsy for next manager. I don't know about that.
I'll take that. I'll have
the players would have to read loads of AI graphics, wouldn't they, on how they need to play.
Hey! You're doing yourself out of water bottle boy duty here, so just calm down.
Sorry. What else have we got in here? Just having a quick look, to be honest with you. So we've got Jed saying Nigel Clough, no trainer. I'm guessing you mean no brainer there. Mobile or Rowett. Nigel Clough for me. Never done a bad job anywhere. Clough. Nigel Clough again. Obviously talking about getting married. Mowbray for me, but it's going to be Liam Manning. So there is a lot of everybody's believing that it might just be Liam Manning. I think Steve wants Wagner back. So do I, but I don't think it's going to happen. Michael Scabala for me, says Michael, but would Lincoln let him leave? Chris says no. He suddenly wouldn't. We know he wouldn't let. Chris wouldn't like that to happen. Would Wagner fancy it again, Chris? You got to hope so. You've got to hope so. Okay. So Chris has also put some more in as well. Genuine reasons why Scabala wouldn't fit. He's 2.5 years into a project at Lincoln, what he's built us steadily. To replicate the Town, he needs time, couple of seasons minimum. and that wouldn't equate to the mantra of wanting to get out of League One as soon as possible. Chris, I think you need to talk to Michael Scabala about that. You might try and need to persuade him rather than us. Captain Cisco got Huddersfield Champions League Football Manager 24. Okay, so Jed asked a question. Who would want the job? Who would want the job? That is the question. That is a great question. But, gentlemen, Steve, one name, please. Who would you give the job to?
One name's hard. I'd give the job to. I'd like Gary Rowett. That'd be my top choice.
That was really difficult. Thank you, Steve.
No, you're making it out so like it. Oh yeah, it's really no, because I actually think there are a few people in the frame for it. But personally, I would have Gary Rowett. I believe.
Steve, we're not talking about who would be in the frame. We're talking about who you want.
I know. So I would want Gary Rowett. I actually think the club will go for Liam Manning. I actually think that. I think it's already been discussed, to be honest, behind the scenes.
Callum, he don't listen, does he? Is that why your hand were over your face? Yeah.
There's an awful lot of words in there for one word.
Right, yeah. Gary Rowett there. Sorry.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Cal?
Tony Mowbray.
Oliver?
I'm going to go Darren Ferguson. He knows this league and he's got promoted with teams before. There we go. We got a face palm over there. Okay. No, he knows this league. He knows it. He's got us promoted. Well, not us, but he's got teams promoted.
He's got us promoted. Oh, there's a secret Peterborough fan.
Not yet.
Oliver, go to your cards that you've got from your FA refereeing course and go give yourself a red. And you've got a podcast man for that.
I think somebody else has got to
I would, Darren Ferguson to get us out of the league, and then we'll switch it around in the championship.
Get that red card, give it to yourself. That's
Come
a
on,
that's a one podcast banned for mentioning that name, a Peterborough manager.
His experience, he's got Peterborough up a few times.
His experience to being crap.
He's got promoted 3 times or whatever it is. I can't remember 3 or 2
years
times.
Ago.
Yeah, well, it still counts. It's still his next time. But on a serious note, I would say Huddersfield, this job's quite attractive, I would say, because there is potential for Huddersfield to go up. You know, it's not a sort of a, we're doing the best we can of a season. Huddersfield have a good opportunity to go up to the championship. Oh, there we go. Nice.
I can't believe that you've said Darren Ferguson.
What's wrong with that? I think that would be brilliant. And you can click it if you want. I would stand by it.
I like that you said that he was good 10 years ago, as if Wagner didn't get us promoted 9 years ago.
No, I respect the irony there. Yes,
this could happen all night, couldn't it? It really, really could. We asked for one name. Steve gave us 2-hour paragraph. We had the one name from Carl, and then Oliver got a 1-week ban off the podcast for mentioning Darren Ferguson.
Well, I'll go Pep Guardiola then next.
All right, Oliver's just been facetious now.
Take that. I think someone who's not really been mentioned too much, and he has been mentioned a couple of times in the comments. Carl, don't you shake your head. But you've got to hope there's a German watching. You've got to hope there's that German watching.
Jan Sievert.
What does he do nowadays?
So, look, David Wagner, where you at? Come to us. Look, gents,
He ain't coming. Stop.
You can always hope, can't you? You can always.
Right, Ken, I'm sorry. I have to bring it up. Right, you're in dreamland, mate. You were in dreamland with bloody Carrick, who's now Man United manager, right, or head coach, or whatever they're calling him these days. And now you're in dreamland thinking that Wagner's good. Mate, just go dip your head in the book.
So much worse now. He's got that job.
Wait, where's that red card? I think I found it.
Yeah, but I tell you what, if they'd have done it when I said, then they probably wouldn't.
He won't come in when you said
that £1 million that they spent on Barley could have given it to Carrick to end the season. Oh. Anyway, look, gents.
Honestly, there's only me and Calvert as sensible people on it. I swear to God, sometimes.
But I think It's got to be David Wagner, hasn't it, Steve? It's got to be. How can it not be?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I won't love him back. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, be realistic, mate. We're in League One, not Championship. I know he's fishing. I know he's baiting me in.
He's
I know.
got one. He's not
I know,
fishing anymore. He's got one.
I know, but I have to take him down also with the Michael Carrick thing because it's just daft. He's just beaten Manchester City at the weekend.
Yeah,
I don't think he'd been sat here wanting a League One job, would he?
Is he a head coach or a manager?
And coach, if Lee Grant was sacked after Wigan game when he got booed and they got Carrick in week after, he wouldn't have been beating Man City, he'd have been beating Burton. Anyway. That's all I'm saying. No, look.
All right,
gents, this has been an absolute wonderful, wonderful podcast. Thank you very much for helping us out this evening. You've been stars. It's been a tough one. We're not going to talk about Bradford because who knows what's going to happen. We just generally do not know what's going to happen. Bradford are going to pack it out. Their away section, they're going to be bang up for it. Let's hope that Huddersfield Town are as well. It's been a West Yorkshire football show. Thank you very much for all your comments. The views have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sticking with us all evening. You know that normal spiel that I have to say. Like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff. Steve, have a wonderful week. Cal, have a wonderful week. Oliver, have a wonderful week. Hope you all do as well that are viewing. It's been a Talktown special. Grant gone, but who next? Have your say. Well, we've had lots and lots of things to say over the last hour. So thank you very much. Until next week, we shall see them.